big rock arch made of limestone. And in the middle, there is a portal that you can look out through to see the Irish Sea and Scotland beyond. And the local legend says that a young man from the village whose lover was lost at sea in an accident used to go there and stare out through this hole in the rock, lamenting the loss of his lover, until he lost his mind. And that's how the arch gets the name, the Madman's Window. But you see, those people in the village, they didn't know the right way of the story. But I'm going to tell you the right way of it now. Many years ago, there was a young man from the village. He was a fisherman, and he had a clinker-built wooden boat, 2 long lines with 50 hooks on each, 100 lobster crates. And one year he decided that he wanted a net as well. He began to net during the dark nights, a huge net. And by springtime it was 100 yards long and 3 yards deep. And when he had the net finished, he realized that he needed someone to help him to set this net. And so he asked in the village, and a young lad came forward and said he would help the fisherman. And out they went. They set the net 100 yards of it across the flow of the tide. And the next day they went out to retrieve the net. And when they began to pull on the ropes, it felt heavy. And the young lad got more and more excited. 5 yards in they pulled it. No sign of a fish. 10, 15, 20, nothing. And yet the net got heavier and heavier. 25 yards, 30 yards, and then they discovered what was weighing so heavily on the net. It was a huge bull seal, the length of their boat. The young lad reached for his knife, and he was about to start cutting at that seal, its fins, its tail, to free it from the net. And the fisherman said, "No, lift its head clear of the water. Why? It's dead. Lift its head." And the young lad put his 2 arms around that huge creature's neck and held its head above the water, and then it took a breath. It was alive, but only just. And then the fisherman and the young lad, they started with their knives and they began to cut the net away from the creature's fins, and where it had cut into its flesh like cheese wire. 2 hours it took them to free that animal from the net. And when they had finished, their backs were breaking, so heavy was the work. And they had to release the seal, and it threw it off the boat. And all that they could see was the creature's eyes, the top of its head, and then it opened one eye, and then the other. And it looked at the 2 men in the boat, and then it disappeared beneath the waves. Well, the net was destroyed, of course, and they pulled what was left of it in, and they rowed back to the village, the river, where they tied up their boat. But the next day they had to go to sea again to pull in their lobster crates and their long lines. Now, on a good day, they might have had 15 or maybe 20 fish, maybe a dozen lobsters that they could have sold. But this day, there was a huge cod on every hook, the length of a man's leg. There was a lobster in every creel. Some of them were so big they couldn't figure out how it had got in there in the first place. And the fisherman said, we'll put most of them back. Let them be caught another day. That's what they did. And as they worked all day, every now and again, a seal appeared at the back of the boat. And it watched them. And it followed them until they had rowed back to the river and tied up at the quay. And it was the same the next day. And the next day. And the next day. And the fisherman made up all of his losses. And by the end of the season, he had done quite well. But the young lad, he had got a taste for the sea. And he wanted some adventure. And he told the fisherman he was going to sail out of Glenarm Bay and out of this story, and we don't know what happened to him after mad. The following spring, the fisherman was sitting down along the side of the quay, mending a lobster creel. And this young woman appeared before him. "I hear," she said, "you're looking for some help with the fishing." "I am," said the fisherman, "but it's no work for a woman." "What?" she said. "I know as much about the sea as any man, and I'm twice as strong." "Are you?" said the fisherman. "Well, it won't cost me anything to let you have a try. Come with me." And he took her out in the boat, and as they worked together, he watched her. She was a beauty. Long, long tresses of dark brown hair flaked with gold auburn. And if that young lad was a good help to the fisherman, the young woman was as good as two men. There was to see him every day. 100 lobsters and 100 huge cod. And as they worked, that seal appeared above the water and it watched them. And then it would follow them until they rowed back to the river, day after day after day. And by the end of the season, the fisherman had done very well for himself. And of course, you know what happened. He'd fallen in love with this beautiful young woman that he had been working side by side with. And eventually he screwed up the courage to ask her, "Would you marry me?" She said, "We can be married, but not churched." It was a strange thing to say, but the fisherman would have taken her under any circumstances. They set up home together. Within 5 years, they had 4 strong sons, little steps upstairs. They all had the look of their mother, and they were all as healthy as trout and as lively as salmon. Coming up on the 7th anniversary of their first meeting, the woman began to act strangely. She became irritable and argumentative, and they began to fall out about nothing. One night the fisherman asked her, "Is everything all right between you and I?" And she bid him to follow her down to the water's edge. And there was a huge flat stone. She lifted it with one hand, and from underneath she retrieved a seal's skin. "What is this?" said the fisherman. "It's mine," she said. "Yours? What would you want with such a thing?" "It is mine," she said. "That seal you saved from drowning, he was my father. He has sent me from the depths of the ocean to bear you sons. You might not be lonely in your old age, but now, my love, I must leave you." "Leave me? You cannot leave me. I love you," he said. "The children love you. They need you. You cannot leave us. Please, I beg you." "I must leave you," she said. "I am not of this world. I can only remain here for 7 years. If I stay any longer, I will be like you. I will die." She dropped her clothes on the rocks. She donned that sealskin. And as she pulled the hood over her head, she said, "Come to the rock arch anytime, day or night. Call my name and I will come." With that, she disappeared into the ocean. The local people found her clothes on the rocks the next morning. They said, "I knew there was something strange about that one. She could never look you straight in the eye. I never liked her. Now she's gone and left those 4 boys alone, taking her own life. Dear, dear, dear." And then they started to see the fisherman out at the rock arch, calling her name and talking as if he was talking to the woman. "Poor, poor man," they said. "He's lost his mind with grief." You see, they didn't know the right way of the story. But I'm going to tell you the right way of the story. Years and years later, those 4 young lads, they grew up, they went north, south, east and west. And one morning the people in the village, they found the fisherman's clothes on the rocks. He was gone. poor man, they said. He never got over the loss of that woman. And now he has taken his life too, poor man. You see, they didn't know the right way of the story. And that's why they call that rock arch the madman's window. But I continue, that's not the way of it. You see, that fisherman is still alive and well to this day. He lives under the waves with his seal wife, where the king of the sea folk has his throne down in the kelp forest. And you might be wondering how on earth I know such a thing. Well, let's just say I have it on good authority.